The greatest refuge. There are stories we hear as children, soft ones, sung by grandmothers with silver in their hair, whispering of stars, rivers, and a world beyond this one. But there are other stories, the ones that return to us when we are no longer children, when the weight of life grows heavy, and we begin to ask, is there something more? Is there somewhere safe to rest? This is one such story. A story not of fantasy, but of truth, not of escape, but of return. And it begins with waiting. Imagine a universe in which time moves, not in years, but in kalpas, vast ages, beyond reckoning. Entire galaxies swirl into being and vanish. Civilizations rise and fall, not once, but countless times. Stars burn out, and still, the waiting continues now. Imagine this. In 91 such eons, 91 kalpas only, 7 Buddhas have appeared. 84 eons passed in complete silence. No guiding light, no Dhamma, no path. Only the suffering of beings caught in the endless wheel of samsara. They cried out in pain, but no answer came. They searched for peace, but found only fleeting pleasure and deeper despair. They died, and were born again, and again, never knowing why, never knowing how to stop. That is how rare a Buddha is. So when we say the word Buddha, we must pause, not out of superstition, but out of reverence, because this word carries the weight of an answered prayer, spanning millions of lifetimes. He did not appear because we deserved him. He appeared because, in the great compassion of the universe, some mercy still remained. He was not sent. He awakened, without a teacher, without a guide. He saw the truth with his own eyes. And what did he see? He saw dukkha, the thread of suffering running through all things. He saw anicca, that nothing endures. He saw anatta, that no fixed self exists within any of it. And most of all, he saw the path out. Let that sink in. After lifetimes of darkness, someone found the exit. He found it not just for himself. He turned around, and with the patience of oceans, he began to teach, not to command, not to control, but to free. In a small forest grove beneath a fig tree, he sat quietly, one man, alone, unguarded, no crown on his head, no weapons in his hands. But, from that seat, the wheel of Dhamma began to turn. He taught the noble eightfold path: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. He did not ask for belief. He asked for practice, for direct seeing, for walking the path and knowing for oneself. Think of this now. How many people are alive today? Billions, and among them, how many have never heard the name Buddha? How many do not know of the Dhamma? How many live and die without once touching the truth? You who are listening now, you are already unimaginably rare. Not because of wealth, not because of luck, but because you have, somehow, in this tangled forest of birth and death, stumbled upon a path left by the only one who ever walked it all the way to the end. But do we realize what that means? Do we realize what we've found? Or are we like beggars holding a diamond, thinking it just a stone? There is a story told in the old texts of a blind turtle living at the bottom of a vast ocean. Once every 100 years, it rises to the surface, and once every 100 years, a wooden yoke floats upon that sea, with a single hole in its center. The chance of that turtle surfacing in its head, slipping through that hole, is the same as the chance of being born as a human being who hears the Dhamma. And yet, here you are, and here it is. The question now is, what will you do with it? The Buddha did not promise comfort. He promised clarity. He did not offer magic. He offered freedom, and the price of that freedom: effort, honesty, a willingness to look into our own hearts. But we are forgetful creatures. The world is loud. Desire is persuasive. Anger is intoxicating. Delusion, so familiar, it feels like home. And so we drift back into distraction, back into clinging, back into suffering. That's why the Buddha didn't leave us alone. When he prepared for his final passing, his disciple Ananda asked, "Who will lead us now?" And the Blessed One answered, "Let the Dhamma and the Vinaya be your refuge." He did not appoint a successor, because no person could replace him. Only the truth he taught could guide. Only the path could lead. This was his greatest gift, not himself, but the Dhamma, the refuge not in a man but in reality, as it is, unchanging, unshakable, liberating. So when we bow to the Buddha, we bow not just to a man, we bow to that in us which can awaken to. We bow to the refuge that is not outside, but already waiting inside. It is a strange thing to live in a world so full of voices, so many teachers, so many paths, so many promises, and yet feel so alone in the search for truth. We scroll, we click, we wander through teachings like shoppers in a crowded market, picking up bits of wisdom, then setting them down again. But the heart does not want fragments. The heart is searching for something whole. And when the Buddha walked the earth, that search found its answer. He did not come wrapped in gold. He came barefoot. He came quiet. He came kind, not with chance, but with silence, not with threats, but with clarity, not with spectacle, but with presence. What made him different? Why do millions, centuries later, still bow before his memory, still carry his words in their bones? It is not because he commanded, it is because he embodied. He was what he taught. The Blessed One was an Arahanta, being utterly pure, completely freed from greed, hatred, and delusion. His mind no longer swayed under the weight of craving. His heart did not grasp at praise, nor fear blame. No shadow lingered behind his smile. He walked through the world with a mind like still water, clear, calm, and deep. There are no words vast enough to contain his qualities, but still, we try. He was self-enlightened, having realized the Four Noble Truths on his own, without any teacher, perfect in virtue, never once breaking precepts, not in thought, word, or deed, peerless in wisdom, seeing past all illusions, perceiving the subtle workings of karma, rebirth, and liberation, limitless in compassion, teaching not for fame, not for gain, but to free others from suffering, master of psychic abilities, not as entertainment, but as tools for skillful means. Yet even with all this, he did not exalt himself. He did not build monuments. He built understanding. So, when we ask, who should I follow? The Buddha gave us not just an answer, he gave us a mirror. Look at a teacher, he said. Look not at their robes or titles. Look at their life, their mind, their attachments, their serenity. In the Parinibbāna Sutta, after the Buddha's passing, a Brahmin once approached Venerable Nanda and asked, "Who now leads the saga? Who is your master?" And Nanda replied, "There is no one single leader. We live in harmony by following the Dhamma and the discipline." The Dhamma became the compass, the Vinaya, the guardrail. No single monk or nun, no matter how senior, was given ultimate authority, because truth must lead, not people still. We long for a guide, someone to walk beside us in this forest of impermanence. And the Buddha did not dismiss this longing. He taught us how to recognize a worthy teacher, a spiritual friend, Kalyak Amita, who is morally upright, keeping the precepts flawlessly, wise having studied and understood the teachings, content living simply, not caught in possessions or status, meditative practicing mindfulness and deep concentration, compassionate guiding without arrogance or demand. If you meet such a person rare as a lotus blooming in stone, do not delay, walk with them, listen deeply, let your pride fall away like autumn leaves. Let their clarity become your mirror. But what if you do not find one? Then become your own mirror. Let the Dhamma be your guide. Let mindfulness be your friend. Let silence be your teacher. Because as the Buddha once said, "Atahayata noeni," though the self is its own refuge, yet that self, in its true form, is not the self we usually imagine. It is not the ego, not the personality, not the voice in our head. It is the awareness that observes, the stillness behind thought, the witness that remains untouched by praise or blame, joy or sorrow. That awareness is where the Buddha points us back to, again and again, not out there, but here. And in the quiet of sincere practice, we begin to see there is no guru greater than the Dhamma. There is no master higher than the path itself. There is no refuge more trustworthy than the truth as it truly is. So we keep walking, not chasing another teacher, but embodying the teachings, not hoping to be saved, but learning how to be free. We begin to understand the greatest refuge is not a person. It is a way of being, a way of seeing, a way of letting go. There is a moment in every seeker's path when silence arrives like a wave, not the silence of peace, but the silence of absence. The teacher is gone, the one who spoke so clearly, so gently, so wisely, who walked barefoot across dusty roads, pausing to lift the burdens of strangers, has now passed into Parinibbāna, final liberation. No more words will come from his lips, no more answers to our trembling questions, no more eyes to meet our grief with compassion. and we are left here, still walking, still seeking, still trembling. How do we go on? How do we walk the path when the one who built it has vanished into the stillness beyond time? This was the question that shook the earth after the Blessed One's final breath. And yet, in that silence, a voice still remained, not a voice made of flesh, but one made of truth. The Dhamma, he left it behind, not in a temple, not in a person, but in the fabric of reality itself. Truth doesn't disappear when the speaker is gone. The sun still rises, even after the Master of Light has turned away. And this truth, the Dhamma, is more than philosophy, more than belief. It is a law deeper than physics, stronger than gravity. It is the law of cause and effect, of craving and suffering, of letting go and liberation. It is the heartbeat of existence itself. And it was this law that the Buddha revealed, not as its creator, but as the one who saw it clearly and showed us how to walk in alignment with it. When asked what should guide the Sangha after his passing, the Buddha did not hesitate. Let the Dhamma and the Vinaya be your teacher. In that simple sentence, he gave us the greatest gift a teacher can offer, the tools to no longer need him. But what is the Dhamma, really? It is not just scripture, not just suttas on a shelf, gathering dust. The Dhamma is alive. It is seen in the quiet breath that becomes still through mindfulness. It is heard in the silence that follows when anger is abandoned. When craving fades, it is touched in every moment. We choose honesty over deceit, kindness over cruelty, patience over grasping. To turn to the Dhamma is to turn inward, toward the fire that burns away delusion. And the more we listen to it, not with ears, but with the heart, the more we begin to remember what the Buddha came to remind us, that suffering is not the end of the story, that peace is not a myth, that freedom is not reserved for saints. It is here, waiting in this very moment, this very breath. But the Dhamma is not always easy. It demands things of us: effort, restraint, renunciation. It asks us to walk uphill while the world rushes downhill, to love when it's easier to hate, to let go when the hand aches to cling. And in this, we stumble, we fail, we forget. But the Dhamma, it waits. It does not punish. It does not scold. It simply continues, like a river beneath the ice, flowing on, patiently, faithfully. We may cry out, "But I cannot see the Buddha." And the Dhamma replies, "Then look into the precepts." We may plead, "But I cannot hear him." And the Dhamma whispers, "Then listen to your own mind in silence." We may collapse, "But I am too weak." And the Dhamma smiles, "Then begin where you are. That is enough." The Dhamma has no favorites. It offers itself to all, to kings and beggars, to scholars and farmers, to sinners and saints. It is the great equalizer, not because it ignores our differences, but because it shows us the one thing we all share, the capacity to awaken. And yet, not all who encounter the Dhamma receive it. Many hear, but do not listen. Many listen, but do not practice. Many practice, but do not persist. So if you are here, still walking, still trying, you are already rare. Hold fast to that. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha said, "This Dhamma is deep, difficult to see, difficult to understand, peaceful, sublime, unattainable by mere reasoning, to be experienced by the wise." And yet he taught it freely. 2 monks, 2 nuns, 2 householders, 2 thieves, 2 queens, 2 dying men, 2 little children. Because what matters is not where you begin, but whether you begin at all. So now we ask again, where do we turn when the Buddha is gone? We turn to virtue, the stillness that comes from restraint, to concentration, the peace born of mindfulness, to wisdomness, seeing that penetrates illusion. We turn to each other, not as masters or followers, but as companions on the same path. And most of all, we turn inward, because there, beneath the noise of the world, beneath the masks of personality and pride, something still whispers, "Come home." There is a kind of loneliness that no crowd can cure. It is the loneliness of the path, the ache of walking through this world, knowing that, though millions walk beside you, few walk toward truth. And in that ache, we long not just for company, but for a guide, someone who's been where we hope to go, someone who does not just speak the path, but lives it. In Pali, the word is Kalyakamitta, a spiritual friend, not a guru to worship, not a master to surrender to, but a companion, a lantern bearer, who helps us see the way when our own light grows dim. But in a world brimming with opinions, with charisma, with clever words? How do we know who to trust? How do we recognize a true spiritual friend? The Buddha, with his deep compassion, did not leave us guessing. He gave us a clear picture, not based on titles or miracles, but on qualities of the heart and mind. A true spiritual friend is not flashy. They are steady. They may not be famous, but they are free. Not free in a worldly sense. Free in the mind. Free from the traps that snare so many teachers. Craving praise, hoarding wealth, clinging to identity. So let us look, as the Buddha taught, not at robes, not at rituals, but at virtue. 1. They live the precepts, flawlessly a genuine spiritual friend holds themselves to the highest standard of SSGOR morality. They do not kill, steal, lie, indulge in sexual misconduct, or intoxicate their mind. But more than avoiding harm, they radiate harmlessness. Being in their presence, you feel safe, not judged, not manipulated, safe. They do not need to say they are pure. You feel it in how they walk, in how they speak, in how they listen. 2. They know the Dhamma deeply, not memorized, realized. They do not just recite suttas, they live them. They do not debate Dhamma to win, but to serve. Their speech clarifies, uplifts, and points back always to the Noble Eightfold Path. They are not distracted by trends or novelty. They do not bend the teachings to suit the world. They bend themselves to align with truth. 3. They are content with little. Real teacher does not amass luxuries while preaching renunciation. They are santuki, content with little. Their robes may be simple, their meals may be plain, but their joy is radiant. They do not need much because their mind is full. They do not chase donors, build palaces, or hoard followers. They may live in a hut, but their heart is spacious. 4. They have deep meditation and insight. His spiritual friend is not just moral and wise, but settled. Their mind is trained, still clear. They have tasted, jhana, the deep states of meditation that silence the noise of craving, and from that stillness, they've seen into reality, not conceptually, but directly. They have insight into impermanence, into suffering, into non-self. They don't teach from theory, they teach from experience. 5. They are free of worldly attachment. They do not measure success in views or likes. They do not boast about their attainments. They do not use the Dhamma for gain. They are not swayed by anger or praise. They do not speak to please. They speak to free. And perhaps most of all, they are humble, not performatively, but truly. They bow to the Dhamma, not to their own image. They weep at its beauty. They tremble at its depth. They serve the path, not their ego. Such beings are rare, but they exist, and when you find them, hold them with your heart, not with blind devotion, but with reverent friendship. Walk with them, not as a child clings to a parent, but as a traveler walks with another who knows the road a little better. And if you don't yet find one, then become one. Become the friend you're longing to meet. It begins with keeping your own precepts, with watching your own mind, with walking the path sincerely, because even before a guide appears, the Dhamma is already present, already whispering. And when you finally do meet a true Kalyaka Mitta, you'll recognize them, not by their fame, but by their freedom, not by their words, but by their stillness, not by what they ask of you, but by what they give, which is always the path, the truth, the refuge. There is a moment when the world becomes too loud, too many voices, too many demands, too much pain, and so we seek escape. We close the door, dim the lights, and sit cross-legged, believing that silence alone will save us. But the Buddha did not teach escape. He taught liberation, and they are not the same. Escape is numbing. It hides, it silences the wound without healing it. But liberation sees the wound, understands it, and then dissolves it from the root. In his vast teachings, the Buddha praised one path repeatedly, like a song whispered over centuries. Jhana. Not a trance, not a fantasy, but a clear, deep settling of the mind, a stillness stronger than chaos. In the forest, alone under the moon, the Buddha sat and entered the jhanas, not to run from the world, but to see it with eyes unclouded. He called it a bliss apart from sensuality, a joy that comes not from having but from releasing. Let us be clear, the Buddha did not praise every form of meditation. He warned against practices that suppress without transforming, that mesmerize without liberating, that give pleasure without insight. The goal is not to become a statue, It's not to breathe our way out of problems. The goal is freedom, the kind of freedom that remains unshaken even when storms rage, when insults fly, when the body fails. And that freedom begins when the 5 enemies of clarity, called the 5 hindrances, are seen and set aside. They are not evil, they are just habits of mind that muddy the mirror. Sensual desire, that itch for beauty, taste, touch, ill will, that flame of aversion, of pushing away. Sloth and torpor, the fog of laziness, the heaviness of mind, restlessness and worry, the racing, the spinning thoughts, doubt, the sinking uncertainty, the mind's quiet sabotage. And when these 5 are abandoned, not by force, but by understanding, a joy arises, quiet, still, deep. That is first Jhana. It is not mystical. It is natural, like a pond undisturbed by wind, reflecting the sky perfectly. From there, the mind can grow even calmer. Second, jhana. Third, fourth, each one deeper, clearer, brighter, and not one is escape. Each is a foundation for seeing things as they really are. For in those depths, we do not lose awareness, we sharpen it. We do not float away, we arrive, and from that stillness, we begin to see. All things are impermanent. All clinging brings suffering. There is no self to protect, no self to glorify. Just this moment, this breath, this truth. The Buddha called this insight vipassana, clear seeing. But vipassana without serenity is weak. It trembles under pressure. It becomes philosophy, not realization. That is why samothakam and vipassana insight are twins. They walk the path together. Some may say, but I cannot enter jhana. I am not a monk. And the Buddha answers, no one owns this path. It belongs to any who will walk it. Householders, mothers, fathers, laborers, kings. All have entered the jhanas. All have seen through illusion, because all have minds. And this path begins with a single decision, to stop running, to stop chasing every craving, to stop believing every thought, to stop fearing silence, to sit, to breathe, to be present, and from that presence, to go inward, not to flee, but to find. In that inward space, the Dhamma lives. Not in books, not on YouTube, but in the silent depth of your own heart. Meditation is not a practice. It is a homecoming, a return to the place you never truly left. So when the world is loud, sit quietly. When the heart trembles, breathe gently. When the mind spins, watch patiently. Because jhana is not something we make happen. It is something that arises when we stop interfering. And when it arises, not forced, not faked, but real, you will know. Because it feels like truth. It feels like freedom. It feels like finally, you are home. May we all walk this path. May we all find this refuge. May we all know the peace beyond words.